Hello and welcome to the Enlighten Me with Ronny podcast with your host Ronny. Before we start this conversation, let's jump to our esteemed panel of global leaders. First out is George Bush. How are you today?
Vision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq.
Okay, well that's weird, but let's hear from President Joe Biden.
And now is the time when things are shifting. There's gonna be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So,
Oh, really? Well, how about Canada? Justin Trudeau. What are you planning?
Building back better.
Okay, how about the Australians? What is your plan?
We will be looking at what contact tracing looks like in the New World Order. Yes, it will be pubs and clubs
And esteemed Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum.
In short, we need a great reset.
World Government Summit. Your thoughts about the subject?
At Dubai Expo 2020. And the title of this session, are we ready for a new world order?
Okay, let's change subject. What is COVID-19, Mr. Gates, if you will?
It's a disease mainly of the elderly, kind of like flu.
And we have some sad news, I hear.
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine that.
We do have some great news, doesn't we, Hillary?
Unconfirmed. Yes, we came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure it did.
I also hear that we have an unjust war in Ukraine. So who are we fighting for?
Right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order.
Fuck it. Yeah, so there we have it. I hope you had sound on so you could hear these so-called leaders ranting about stuff. So today I'm joined by Rob Brisky. Did you say that? Or Brisky. Yeah. And he's from the blaqlabs podcast. And you told me here before you worked at Alamos, the same place
Los
as
Alamos. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me about that.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I guess which direction do you want to go? Do you want to go crazy? Do you want to go dark? Do you want to go technical? I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. One of the stories
crazy
is,
might be best.
Okay, let's go with the crazy part. All right. So okay, so let's go with the abbreviated version, somewhat abbreviated. What's your time frame for your shows usually? About an hour, or what do you usually do?
Yeah, I usually do an hour, and we're a little late now, so hopefully my girl stays out with the kids a bit longer than I asked her to do.
Okay. So I'll make it relatively abbreviated. So we're gonna do this story in reverse. Okay. First off, we're gonna start with the fact that Sheriff Lujan ends up getting arrested, okay, for corruption and for aiding and abetting a felon. We're going to start at that point. That's actually the end of the story, but that's the part people can look up and verify, because one of the problems is with the way this story isn't as convoluted as it is, a lot of people get partway through it and go, there's no way this can be true. So we're just going to go from the end and we're going to reel it back. So, okay, Sheriff Lujan's looking at 10 years in jail. Now, here's the other part of the story going back. I end up in kind of a panic about a year ago because they decide that it's a mistrial. And the reason why it's a mistrial is everybody loves this guy. Everybody loves Sheriff Lujan, okay? Including Linda Moulton Howe. So it involves other people in the paranormal community. Okay. So I stepped on, tripped on, and probably unintentionally stomped a lot of feelings with what I did by whistleblowing. So, all right. So how did we get to the point where we have an esteemed sheriff getting arrested? Well, we ended up getting to that point because Phil Chacon was involved in some shenanigans. And as it turns out, I worked with Phil Chacon at Los Alamos right about the same time that we had shut down the accelerator. We always see an uptick in aberrant behavior. We were seeing a lot of the employees, whenever you would shut down the accelerator or turn it back on, for some reason you would see a lot of instances of domestic abuse, risky behavior, fighting, violence, people getting arrested. And it never made sense to me because I'm looking at it from the outside. Okay, people that have lived in the community, they understand this. So that's why we had 3 psychologists on staff for many years. And oddly enough, they canceled that right about the time I got there in 2016. Now, what had happened in 2016, just prior to me getting there, was that we had 2 of our scientists die in a plane crash that was kind of suspicious. Both of them were trained pilots, etc. And oddly enough, and now I'm not speculating, but what I am saying is that the airport they took off from was adjacent to Phil Chacon's property. Okay. So their flight path would have had to go over his property. So there's a lot of speculation. It was reopened as a potential foul play murder at one point, shortly after I left Los Alamos. But the bottom line is you have a lot of people acting very strangely in that facility whenever you turn the particle accelerator on or off. And as you all know, this is pertinent right now because we just had CERN turn on this morning. I don't know if you were following that story or not.
I've heard about it, yes.
Yeah. Well, supposedly someone already committed suicide today.
Already?
Yeah.
That's fast.
It's like, and what's funny is I was trying not to preload it, right? And I was just like, man, they're using so much energy on this one. Okay, usually the only people that are affected by it are people, close in the proximity, right? So we would have people having strange cancers, strange diseases, strange manifestations. I would get headaches. A lot of people would complain about extreme migraines right around the time we would be either powering up or powering down the facility. So it wasn't all that unusual, but a lot of people, for example, a lot of people told me that there was a certain area you didn't want to go in when the accelerator was shut down. So I was doing maintenance. So oftentimes I would be in areas that literally hadn't seen a human being maybe in a year or 2 straight. Like no one had been down there to do any sort of checks. Because if nothing breaks, nobody has a need to go down there. You're talking about a facility that is, gosh, I think ours was almost 2 miles long for the accelerator tunnel. And then we had a acceleration ring where we could actually bring the particle into the ring, capture it, spin it, bring it up to a higher velocity, and then reintroduce it back into the main thoroughfare, right? The main tunnel. So in the ring, no one needs to go in there. There's really nothing in there. Well, at one point I had to go in there and everyone said, don't go in there by yourself. And I said, well, why? There's nothing there. There's none of the safety issues that normally make it so that you have to be escorted. There's no high voltage. There's no mechanical stored energy. Everything is shut down. There's no power to anything. But people were very adamant. Oh, and also too, obviously, you're in New Mexico. So you have scorpions, you have rattlesnakes, things like that. Sometimes they will get into the equipment. I haven't seen it very much, but it happens. But even then, I was like, well, then when can I do this job? You guys have me on a deadline. I can't, we don't have any available staff to go down there with me. So I'm in a catch-22, right? So of course, me being who I am, I go, well, these people are crazy. I started deducing that after about a year. I was like, or after about 6 months, I was like, I'm crazy, but you guys are really crazy. And you're not even making sense in my world. So I know you're way out there, right? So I was like, well, what's it going to hurt? I'm just going to go down there. I'm going to go check it out, see what tools I need, and then I'm going to come back. I'm not going to spend any time there. I just want to be able to prepare for, what I need to bring down there to do the job. Because at the time I was working as a audit, what do they call that? Instrumentation engineer. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what I need. I can at least start preparing. And we get it was a we down there, but not me and another human. It was me and something else is what ended up happening. So I go down to this area, and it's early in the morning, and I figure, well, the boss isn't there, so I'm going to go down there, because then she's not going to yell at me. So she's not going to be able to catch me. Well, I go over there, and no sooner than I open up a panel and start looking around, I hear somebody riding a bike. So we used to ride bicycles. It's such a large facility. We used to ride bicycles up and down the tunnel to get to and from places. And a little bit sketchy because I've ridden those bikes a few times, and I don't know if you've seen Biden, right? Well, a lot of the scientists there, they're older than Biden. And it's like, well, they probably shouldn't be riding these bikes. Anyway, so one time I rode a bike in there, and it happened to be just a little bit of water on the floor. And the floor is polished concrete, and it's really polished. And then it's coated with a glaze, okay, to keep the water damage from getting into the concrete and then causing it to crack. And there's been times I've been on a bike and I ate shit. I mean, for lack of a better word. And I skateboard even now at 52. So if I'm falling on these bikes, I can only, God knows, what the older guys go through riding those things. So I see this really old guy on a bike, and I'm like, holy crap. He probably should, number one, he probably shouldn't be on that bike. Number two, I should get the hell out of the way just in case he eats shit, because it had just snowed. So there was wet spots on the concrete. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to get out of the way and hope this guy doesn't fall. So I see him way down there, and literally I open the cabinet and just look in there for a second and close the cabinet to look to see how he's doing. And he's literally right in front of me. And I'm like, well, how the hell did he get from way down there all the way at the end of the tunnel to here? And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and I was like, well, maybe it's a different guy. I don't know. It's 4:30 in the morning, so there's nobody there except for me and one other technician. So anyways, so he introduces himself. We do the handshake, etc. He says, oh, glad to see you here, this, that, and the other, asks my background, kind of the normal things that old timers and government jobs are going to ask you, right? And he seemed to be Navy, because he was asking me what I did and, what service I was in, and I was in the Army, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll see you later. And he continues down the tunnel, and I happen to look down the tunnel, and the guy fades away. He literally just kind of turns into mist and disappears. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, I keep looking down the tunnel, so I'm like, well, maybe he veered off, or he went out a door, or went into one of the access cubbies, or so I start walking down there, and I'm walking down there. And now, mind you, it's about 4:45 at this point in the morning, because I got there at 4:30, about 4:45, still dark outside. And I start walking down there, and I'm using my flashlight, I'm trying to remember if I heard a door open or if I heard, you know, where the hell did him and this bike go? There's not many places for them to go. There's nowhere for them to go. So I decide, all right, well, let's go through the options. I look outside, there's no cars because everyone brings their cars up to their area and then they get on a bike when they get in the tunnel. Okay. So I'm looking for other cars. There's nobody there. I call the guard. Hey, how many people are on site right now? And he goes, it's just you and that other guy. He goes, you're the only ones crazy enough to be here except for us security guys. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, there was an old man down here. And he's like, were you in section F? And I go, yeah. He goes, were you there by yourself? And I kind of got startled and I was like, no, baby, you know? And he goes, I'll just assume I didn't hear you say that and that you weren't there. He goes, good luck, buddy. And he hung up on me. So I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? Now it's about 4:52 roughly at that point. And I go walk back over to section F because I had left some tools there. I go to pick them up and my boss is there. And I'm like, wow, holy how the hell? I didn't hear her come in, and you can hear everything. I mean, it's a big, long tunnel. Everything echoes. When I'm walking, I can hear my footsteps. Okay, they're echoing back half a mile down and then coming back up the tunnel. So it's not like somebody can sneak in on you, you know? And I'm trying to figure out how my boss is there. And she's like, well, I thought I told you not to be here. And I was like, well, I kind of am not. I was over in section E just now. And she goes, but your stuff's sitting here. And I'm like, what the hell? How? Anyway, there was rumors that she was a witch. Anyway, I mean, not just a witch because she's mean, but because she's an occult witch, right? So, but I've been trying to figure out what happened in that event. And then I started to realize, okay, now I understand maybe why we had 3 psychologists on staff that you could go to at any time, right? Because maybe there was more paranormal activity at one point going on there. They used to run the tunnel. They used to call it the tunnel, the linear accelerator. They used to run it quite a bit more than they did in later years, only because it wasn't as much of a demand. Some of the main things we did was research, but research was cutting back. So then they switched their business model over to doing medical grade isotopes. For example, if you get thyroid cancer or there's various types of cancer you can get, they'll put a small isotope, radioactive piece of material in your body in the hopes that it'll kill off the cancer. It often kills off everything else. It's not a super good theory, but they are very profitable. So with that in mind, doing the medical grade isotopes was very profitable for the tunnels. So that's why they did them. And it always makes you wonder if there's not some kind of perverse incentive to continue radioactive cancer treatment, even though it doesn't really work very well. Hasn't been shown to be super effective, but the government makes a lot of money off of it. So keeps big facilities like that open and cash fat, as it were. But anyways, about the same time that happened, about a week later, on the very close to the anniversary of when those 2 scientists died in that strange aircraft crash, this guy Phil starts acting really weird. We couldn't really figure out what was going on with him. He like just stopped showing up to work and you know, is just acting really out of sorts and no one could figure it out. So I get put into a position where, he says something in front of witnesses and I can't quite back away from it because I'm still working on my clearance. So it's one of those things where if you don't report it, you'll lose your clearance. And if you do report it, you might get fired. So you're in this strange balance, right, as to how to handle the situation. If there hadn't been any witnesses, I'm going to be quite honest, and I don't care if my FBI agent is listening right now, I probably wouldn't have said anything. I probably would have just let it go and said, he's just crazy and, you know, talking smack, and I'll just let that go. But in this case, I couldn't because there was witnesses. So now I got to say, well, which one of these witnesses is likely to slip and say something later on down the line? I didn't feel like going to jail. And what he had said was bad enough that, yeah, not reporting it could have led to some bad results for me. So I went and brought it up to the security office. Security office blew it off. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting laid off. So it was kind of one of those whistleblower type issues. That's why the podcast started originally. And everyone said I was crazy, of course, because that's how they typically, with whistleblowers, that's how they'll discredit you, right? They'll say you have a mental issue or something. And
Yeah,
got laid off. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow along here. I'm not
Yeah.
really, I don't know your story. So this is the first time hearing everything. So it's a bit, I have like 10 puzzle pieces now trying to put it together.
Yes.
So you say you came out as a whistleblower, but what happened? Like the story about the guy disappearing, that's not the story you whistleblowed on, or that's
well, what I'm
just a
saying is
separate thing, or
it's related. It's related because we have to understand the background as to why people around those times when the tunnel is turned off, why they start acting out of character, right? So we don't know if it's the fields, if it's the collapse of the fields, the expansion of the fields during power down and power up that cause it. But the bottom line is Los Alamos knows that something goes on with that linear accelerator whenever it's powered up or powered down. Okay. And they know it affects people's mentality. So that plays into, and well, they know that, you know, there might be some strangeness that occurs due to this too, and just either don't want to admit it, don't want to talk about it, or would rather just cover it up with mental health issues, right?
That would explain a bit why CERN had their human mock sacrifice to Satan before they started CERN. So if they know it's something weird going on when you start up these things, they're like, let's just give a present to the devil to please him before we start working.
Right. We don't want the devil to poop all over our plans here. So we go ahead and sacrifice a few babies. It'll be fine. You know, but here was the thing that ties into this. So the thing that that Phil had talked to me about was referring to goings on at his trailer park, and he wanted to invite me to a party, which I had reason to believe may have some occult background to it, right? Based on his statement. And or may have been related to the greater issue here that we have in New Mexico concerning underage females. So a lot of people don't realize that here in New Mexico, any female older than 13 can consent. And here's the problem with that. Okay, in the cities, like you got Santa Fe, Albuquerque, larger cities, they'll usually have 17 or 18 as the age of consent. Okay, but if you get out into the other areas, counties, etc., it's if the judge has discretion, he doesn't have to prosecute as long as the quote victim is over the age of 13. He can waive off the case, and it happens all the time. And it explains why Epstein Ranch is where it is. It's in the middle of nowhere. out here in New Mexico, because then they fall under the state law, which is basically saying that
the baby farmhouse.
Yes.
Or what he was trying to build.
Yes, the master race situation that he had, which was involved with Los Alamos. A lot of the people that helped him set up that program were scientists from Los Alamos. Now, what I'm going to say next isn't going to be a shock, but I think it's been downplayed. I think Los Alamos was working directly with Epstein. I don't think this was just a one-off. I think the entire leadership was in on it, and it was accepted, and it was considered, it was normalized effectively. The idea of this genetic master race, using these scientists as sperm donors, etc., so that he could build this master race army. And now here's the other thing. When our DA went to serve a warrant, I think it was Barrera's? When he went to serve the warrant, they didn't bring any police or anything. They just kind of went to the door of Epstein Ranch, said, "Oh yeah, here's the warrant." Epstein Ranch said, "Thanks, peace out." And that was it. He didn't push the issue to get into the property to investigate. So nothing ever came of Zorro Ranch. It continues on as if nothing happened. And that happened in that time frame between me whistleblowing at Los Alamos about what I was introduced to, and the time that Sheriff Lujan gets arrested. Now, in the timeline, many other things happen. Pretty much Phil lost his mind. He was pistol whipping people. He was stabbing people. It was just on arrest after arrest. And yet Los Alamos was doing their best to keep him on staff. I mean, they fought for him tooth and nail, which makes me think that in that case, he's a bigger player than anyone wants to admit, especially since he had a county sheriff at his personal property trying to block a warrant. Very similar to what happened at Epstein Ranch, right? So
Okay.
it's a really big picture, and I think the paranormal is wrapped up into this somehow. I think there is a huge number of moving parts that go from occult, the paranormal, criminal organizations, drug enterprises, human trafficking, the whole 9 yards. I think it's a gigantic story. But of course, I have to work a regular job. You know what I mean? I'm an independent contractor, because obviously with what I'm saying here, no one's going to hire me. Now, people will hire me as a contractor under my company, and it doesn't look like they hired me per se, right? So they know I'm good at what I do. They'll call me in, but no one is going to hire me as a regular employee with this story. Not in New Mexico. It'll never happen. Maybe nowhere ever, for that matter. No big corporation will ever touch me ever again, but they'll hire me as a contractor. They'll have me come in, do some work, et cetera, et cetera. But to actually have me on the employee payroll is a huge no-no. I'm more than radioactive. And another interesting point, the most radioactive element ever made in the world was made here in Los Alamos. Now, the funny part about that is they put all this work and effort to make this. I think they actually, so originally they had something at Los Alamos called the Demon Core, okay, which was this extremely radioactive chunk of material. This other one that they did, I'm actually thinking that if I recall, they were calling it, the nickname for it was the Necronomicon, because it was about as big as a book, okay, like a really big dictionary, and it was the most radioactive material in the known universe, right? So they make this thing, and then they go, "Oh God, we don't know what to do with it. We can't dispose of it. It's too radioactive. We can't handle it." It's almost, it basically, they made this thing and said, "Yes, look what we did," and then they don't know what to do with it. You can't put the radioactive genie back in the bottle. You can't contain it. So what are you going to do with it? And I guess Lord knows. I mean, they've probably lost the tracking on it and have no idea where it is. If you were to ask somebody where that thing is, that's my big question. This new um, goat humping guy, Simonton, I think his name is. Did you see that demonic dude that they just put in for waste disposal for the Department of Energy?
I have not.
Holy cow. Okay, so in January or February, they originally introduced him into the how can you say, candidacy, right, to work for a department, or he's going to actually be the head of the Department of Energy. But at some point they decided, well, he not only is the material he's going to be working with radioactive, but he's radioactive, so they dropped it. Well, they slipped him in, no pun intended, on Saturday as the waste disposal manager for Department of Energy. So let me see if I could find this guy. I'm trying to remember his name. I should know it off the top of my head. Really, this guy was writing books and articles about how to have sex with animals and all kinds of other psychosis. But that seems to go along with the Department of Energy and with these people that work at these labs. I mean, they're just not, there's just something wrong with them.
Sounds familiar now when you're talking about it. I think I saw something on Twitter. I didn't stop to actually check what it was. I just saw some guy
Okay.
that
Sam Brinton. And here it says, this is a Gay Pride Month celebration panel. Okay, here he says, I've prepared for this moment in a technical sense for a decade, graduating with not 1 but 2 degrees from MIT, led to working at multiple think tanks. Now, we all know think tank guys are not good people typically, okay? Just in general. I mean, I don't care if you're in a conservative think tank. I don't care if you're in a liberal think tank. I don't care if you're in a Jesus think tank. Okay, you put people in a think tank and they tend to lose their freaking mind. They just end up losing it.
I would
I
agree
don't know,
with you there.
right? I mean, come on, let's be honest. The World Economic Forum, that really is kind of a think tank, right?
Yeah, that was I was thinking about when you talk about it. And they have the
Yeah.
Atlantic Council and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Council of Foreign Relations, right? We know that most of the people involved in that are a little cuckoo at the upper echelons.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
yeah.
weird one. Just a little tangent. They have said that the New World Order is a conspiracy for 70 years. Now they have on the Council of Foreign Relations on the website, the liberal New World Order has been going on for 70 years, and we are proud for what we have accomplished. And well, I'm like, hold on. And now every leader in the world is yapping about the New World Order, and I'm like, dude, that's my thing.
Right. I'm supposed to be crazy here. Hold on.
Yeah.
You're taking my job. You know?
Yeah. Something happened in 2020. They started coming out of every fucking hole they had and spewing bullshit.
Yeah. So here, let me I'll go ahead and pull up our buddy Sam Brinton so I can show you what goes on at the labs. And it ain't okay. You okay? Here we go. Let's go pull up our best friend here. He's a nice guy. Yeah, I'm sure he'll take very good care of your animals for you. Whatever that might mean. Okay.
I gave you permission to screen share if you have it on our website somewhere. And
okay. I was just going to do it through my OBS.
Okay, that's fine too.
If I can find it, where the heck? As usual, OBS is acting random. So let me see here. Oh, there. No. Yeah, I think it's off of the screen. I love OBS, especially when stuff disappears off the screen. That's my favorite. Well, bottom line is his name is Sam Brinton. He looks like a super freak. I mean, this is the stuff of nightmares here. I mean, let me go ahead and look at this guy. Look at that guy. Holy God. What
Ah.
what is going on? What Ooh, my name is Sam Brinton. I'm going to take away all your radioactive material and you won't know where it goes. Ooh, and you can't do nothing about it because I'll just say you're anti-gay. Oh my God. Like who? I have nightmares about this. This face is horrific. I don't care how many degrees you've got. I just don't. Just take the lipstick. Look, okay? Hey, real talk. I'm just gonna say this. Can you can can you not have your lipstick get all over your mustache and your beard? I mean, that would be cool. Look at that smeary, whatever that is. He's all like, I'm gonna kiss you. But this is the type of people you run into. This is not that unusual at Los Alamos. Okay. So in a way, he fits the culture. So he's the culture leader of the labs. This is the kind of guy you get. Okay. And everybody is into strange kinks and weirdness, but nobody is into conspiracy theory. The one guy that would have been what is his name? Bob Lazar. Okay.
Yeah.
You saw what they did to him. Didn't go well. Right. And okay, everyone says Bob Lazar doesn't have a degree, right? I'm sure you've heard all these discreditations.
I have a few hours of Bob Lazar in my life, so yeah.
Don't we all? But anyways, everybody knows that they went all out to discredit that poor fool. Okay. Well, the bottom line is, if you actually go to Los Alamos, so no, officially Los Alamos will say, oh, we don't have any records of him. We don't have this. We don't have that. If you work at Los Alamos, one of the easiest ways to get fired, start asking about Bob Lazar. That was one mistake I made when I got there because I was just interested. I'm like, oh, I heard Bob Lazar works here, and everyone gets the case of the big eye, right? Like, and you're like, why is that a big deal? What, you okay? You okay? You off your meds or what? And they're all, you know. So it's kind of an unwritten rule that if you work there, you never say his name. Okay, it ought to be in the employee handbook, so you know. Okay, don't ask anything ever. Don't even mention it. Nothing about Bob Lazar, right? And unfortunately, I did, because I was just like, well, what's the big deal? Why? Oh, we don't talk about him around here. I was like, well, what? So ran into a guy at one of the bars there at the Pajarito Cafe, and well, it's a bar and grill, Pajarito Bar and Grill, and he was very open about it. He was like, yeah, he was here. I don't know why they make a big deal about it. And I said, right? Why? What's the big deal? Now, it turns out I was talking to like one of the directors. I had no idea. Just a dude in a bar, right? Is what I'm thinking. I'm talking to somebody way up there, right? I later found out. I'm not going to give his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. He's like, yeah, he goes, why do they pretend? He goes, he has a degree. They know. He goes, I don't know why they pretend like, he didn't go to school. He goes, everybody here knew what was going on back then. It's not that big of a deal. He goes, the corruption in this place really has turned me off, because he goes, the things have gotten worse, not better. So, we were shipping plutonium on planes, right? I mean, hey, who cares about snakes on a plane? Let's talk about who put this MF and plutonium on this MF and plane, right? We did that. As totally illegal. Imagine a plane crash full of plutonium. How's that going to go?
Yeah,
but they did it.
Wouldn't go straight.
So are they going to call it COVID? Right?
Are they flying it to destroy it or use it as fuel or?
No. They were just shipping it to some other facility. Here was the other problem about that. The big issue isn't that it got on a plane. The big issue is, why the hell were you shipping it over there and doing it off the books? They didn't account for it. So you're shipping, everyone's like, oh, it was on a plane and it wasn't that big of a deal and everything was fine. Wait a second. Wait a second. You didn't have any backing document to put that damn thing on a plane. That should never got on a plane. It should never have been shipped. What were you up to? And see, nobody wants to ask those questions. Nobody wants to know about that. You giving it to terrorists? What are you doing with it? You know, I mean, look, if I poisoned a bunch of people with plutonium, right, just to say I was a terrorist, well, actually, the U.S. government already calls me a terrorist, so what's the big deal, right? I mean, so apparently I'm a terrorist already. But if I was a terrorist and right, yeah, well, now you are. Yeah, how dare you? Oh, you're unvaccinated? Terrorist. So, oh, you have questions? You want to do research? Terrorist. So let's just say terrorists want to create a big event. All right. So, plutonium, especially in the age of COVID, how hard would it be if you were to poison a bunch of people with plutonium? You just say, oh, they all had COVID, right? I mean, that's the excuse for everything. Every time you want to kill a bunch of people, you just call it COVID and no one bats an eye anymore. Everyone goes, oh yeah, that COVID, it's a new variant, the plutonium variant. But everything can't be COVID, man, but to them, and unfortunately people buy it. It works. So this is where we're at right now. So bottom line is a lot of bad things go on at the national labs. And we need to, especially when you're putting people like this crazy fool, this Simonton guy, we really need to up our game and start paying attention to what the hell's going on in our labs. There is too much dangerous elements, equipment, you name it. And you come to find out too, that a lot of the people in Los Alamos were going over to Wuhan,
Yeah, I'm just gonna show this guy. I had to looking up myself.
Fair enough.
He's a very classy dude.
He's very spiffy, isn't he? Look at him. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't heard much about him because usually I listen to more conservative podcasts when I listen to politics, and they go crazy when Biden hires a new trans something. So I'm like, I myself, I don't care, but it's a big thing on the right, so usually I know about them.
Well, it's not the fact that he's LGBTQP. It's the P is not a good thing, obviously. I mean, that's it's just
that's not there officially, right?
I guess right. Well,
you're saying they have pedophile in the end.
It's in the parenthesis, right? It's the LGBTQ small p, right? Yeah. So we know what you're getting at when you're doing drag queen story time. We get it, okay? Here's a scary part, and this is you bring up a good point. Why did they ignore this guy? They chose to. There's something not right there, right? We can agree that he was conveniently ignored for some reason, right? The right won't touch him. The left, they snuck him in. So now you have to ask the third thing, which is why? Okay, why was it so important to be so clandestine in installing this guy into one of the key positions in the Department of Energy?
So when you started talking about this guy, you said he was fucking goats, or what did you say?
His own admission. His own admission is that, he gives, I guess he does like workshops on how to have sex with animals. I mean, that's his own admission. That's his thing, if you know what I mean. And here's the thing, the guy they picked the perfect guy, and the reason, or guy or girl, I don't know, what is it? I think he calls himself they, them. Okay. So if you want to say I'm a bigot, that's fine. I don't care. I really don't at this point. I'm pretty sure animals can't consent. Ba means no, right? In my book, bark, bark means no. Okay. I mean, we have to go there. Why do we have to go there? The thing is this guy is so socially and culturally radioactive, for lack of a better term, that no one wants to even discuss it. No one even wants to talk about this because it is literally a socio-cultural economic bomb. Okay. It's going to go off in your face. There's no way that you can get involved with this guy and his topics and not have to roll in the dirt like a pig like him. You see what I'm getting at? You end up wrong no matter what you do, no matter which way you play it, no matter which way you turn. It's an impossible thing because what you're going to have to talk about is just so abhorrent, even to most of the LGBTQ community. What he does is just horrible, and there's no way around it. So how do you handle it?
Yeah, about these these people, I saw a funny meme that said, I didn't know the trans community was that big of a readers when they always
That-
want to have the reading for children. So,
Oh, right. Exactly. Yeah.
everybody seems to be big readers.
Yes, they read all day. That's all they do. Read all day, drag all night, baby. 2 snaps up. Right?
Yeah, I was a bit distracted here because I'm looking at a picture with him when he's playing some kinky shit.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. It literally is a mind screw, right? It literally is like a mental disruption for you. It's literally mentally screwing you up to have to go down this road with this weirdo, right? So it makes you look stupid, because it's just so ridiculous and so horrible. You sit there and you're just awestruck by just the inhumanity and the ridiculousness of it. It's just, and no one wants to talk about it. Everyone, well, I mean, how do you talk about it? I don't know. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? I mean, you can only go so far in this situation again, and then you end up looking like the bad guy, like you're picking on the trans dude. What's wrong with you? Stop picking on him. That's mean. Why are you so mean? Well, I'm not being mean. I just want all the animals in his neighborhood to feel sexually safe. That's all I want. Okay? That's
not too much to ask for.
Apparently it is. Apparently it's my problem. I haven't embraced my bestiality yet. My inner bestiality.
I give it 20 years and the Christians will stand in the church. Yeah, let's be open about it.
Yeah. Oh, we could be open about a lot of things. We can be open about a lot of things. Don't screw my food. All right. Hey, look, man, I don't fuck your sandwich. You don't fuck my cow. Okay. Leave it alone. Can we agree? Like, what? I have to draw lines somewhere, man. I'm sorry. I guess I'm a bigot now. Who knew? Moo means no. Come on, man.
So, this derailed a bit.
Yeah. But
So,
it's too easy. It's too easy. I can go all day about this guy. It's just too easy. There's so many jokes to be made here. And again, I'm going to get annihilated for it. You know what I mean? Which is fine. You just blame it all on me. Just say it says that that blaqlabs dude is crazy. He's kind of crazy. I didn't know he was going to go there. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's funny. But we was talking about your whole story, and I don't think we ever got to the finish line. So let's get there.
Oh, we're pretty close. So bottom line is, we can acknowledge that mentally something's going on with a lot of people at Department of Energy. Okay, whether it be the upper level staff all the way down to the guys that sweep the floor, especially at the linear accelerator. So anyways, what ended up happening there is they tried to exonerate Phil. They did everything they could. Tried to keep him on staff, put him on meds, you know, all the normal bureaucratic BS that they go through. And then eventually he took hostages in his own house and barricaded himself, and the SWAT involved and everything else. And then I was exonerated, but now I'm exonerated 2 or 3 years too late. I'm still pursuing a lawsuit here. So I probably shouldn't talk about it too much, which is why I was being a little bit vague to some degree. I can't give details because now we can reopen the lawsuit for wrongful termination because the evidence has presented itself as such. Bottom line is it ends 2 years later with a string of felonies, violence, you name it. And then, of course, Sheriff Lujan stepping in to block a warrant to his property, which then escalates into Sheriff Lujan going to jail for potentially for 10 years. I think they only gave him 5. You can look it up if you're interested. But bottom line is, there are many, many aspects to the national labs that are not on the up and up. There are many people who are fully cleared with Q clearances, which are actually higher than a top secret SCI, which is a very high clearance in the military, because you have the military version of the clearance, and then you have the national labs version, which is slightly higher. So judging by all these,
do you trigger like everybody now when you said Q clearance? They're going, is he QAnon or what the fuck is he talking about?
See, and that's the other thing that annoys me. It's like, wait a second, you know, I have people say, oh, you're one of the Q people. I go, I was like really like one of the Q people. Like when before there was QAnon, there was Q clearances going on here at Los Alamos. That's where that's from. Did you not get it? You know, Project Looking Glass, all that stuff is all tied in with the national labs and, you know, China Lake and all these advanced research projects. And at any given point in these advanced research projects, at some point they touch off or utilize resources from the national labs. And we really need to get a handle on what the hell's going on at these national labs. They can't be run as private fiefdoms anymore. You can't ignore investigations and say it's for national security anymore. Okay, that needs to stop. They need to crack this nut once and for all. There's a lot of big problems going on at the national labs. There's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen. And I'm pretty sure this Simonton guy is not going to clean up anything. Okay, let's be honest. What does he look like somebody who's going to, you know, toe the line by the book, right?
He looks like someone that's fun at a party, at least.
Oh boy, I'm sure he's like Krusty the Clown, but with animal sex. You know, it's like he even looks like a clown. I mean, smeary makeup and everything, and the weird shaped head. He's got that clown head that looks, it looks like a peanut or something. It's really strange. So yeah, I'm sure loads of fun at parties, BDSM, and, you know, extravaganza. I'm sure there's lots of personal lubricant whips going on, and I'm sure if you're into that, loads of fun, baby. But we have to clamp down on our national labs. One of the ways that we've lost dominance in the world has been through national labs. The national labs have been a disgrace for a very long time. There are some people who do good work, but I think a lot of them are subverted by the fact that we've got documents just flowing out of our national labs by the pile, by the gig, by the terabyte. Just, you know, it's a complete shit show. I mean, you've got people dealing drugs on the side, trafficking, you name it. The places always, the investigations are thwarted because they can always throw up the, oh, well, we're doing secret stuff here. Well, how secret is it now? I mean, you've admitted that you're hiring somebody here who wants to hump animals and stuff. what's the big secret you're hiding again? Because it seems to me at this point anything goes. So your secrecy is over. It's time that somebody own up to what's been going on there for all these years. Yeah, but with my story ends in that now I'm seeking to get a lawsuit going with all this data that's come down, and hopefully they'll just settle out of court. They might do a gag order, which is why I'm talking about it as much as I can now, because once they do the gag order and/or I get a settlement, well, then I got to shut up, because then they're going to watch every little thing I do, every little podcast I'm on, etc., waiting for me to slip up and give critical information, because then again, they can just say, oh, well, that was classified. It might not be classified. The way that it works is they throw shit on the wall and see what sticks when it comes to clearances, kind of like they did in reverse with Hillary, right? Where they're sitting there going, oh, well, she, uses an unencrypted email server that's being run by Pakistani intelligence or whatever. And, we're going to just ignore that. But some guy took a picture on a sub of something that is open to the public, public knowledge, but we're going to call it secret so we can, make an example of him. And that's my only concern. One reason why I haven't, I kind of held back on seeking legal recompense was because of that situation, because I know that it's probably going to come with a gag order of some sort where they're not going to want me to talk about it. And I think to some degree, it's more important to talk about it. It needs to come out into the open. We need to know that there's plutonium flying on, all this plutonium's on an MF and plane. And we need to know, number one, why is it on a plane? You know better. Number two, why didn't we have traceability to find out who told you to put it on a plane, and or why, and or who the recipient was? No one wants to get into that fact. No one wants to talk about that we were sending plutonium on a plane, which is bad enough, but we don't have any record of who is to receive it on the other end. Just going to an address somewhere. No one wants to talk about that. And again, they can always throw up the secrecy flag. Oh no, can't talk about any more secrecy. That's been too long. Too long they've been able to use as an excuse. Long before there was COVID as an excuse for every bad thing they did, there was secrecy. And that's how we ended up in this situation where 70 years they were saying there was no such thing as a new world order. And now they're going, hey, everybody, look, it's a new world order. We've been doing this for 70 years.
And now we need to defend it. I'm like,
right.
Okay,
yeah.
dude.
You're defending something that doesn't exist. So who's crazy now?
Yeah.
Us or them? It's a very strange situation, and it's not good. We need to get back to being a country of the people, for the people, and by the people. And I don't, are these people even people at this point? I don't know. I mean, who knows what they do when they go down to Antarctica? They still won't give us any good answers about that one. What are you doing down there?
Yeah, that's a fun
Explain
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So I was looking because I saw this. Now I just found it on little bit more fringe news sites, but an ecstasy lab was found in a NATO airbase in Belgium. Just
okay.
Like
that's not unusual.
No, apparently. So yeah, I just popped into my head when you were talking about all the shit that's going down, and they're flying stuff around and maybe trafficking people. So I'm like, yeah, and we have apparently drug labs on NATO bases here in Europe. So
well, I mean, NATO has never been clean. So, for example, something I didn't understand when I went to fire Lance when I was in field artillery on the island of Crete, Greece. I would say about half of the NATO soldiers that were there were high. Everybody's high except for me. What? Hey, I'm missing out. I didn't know you could just go to a NATO base and that was a place to get high. Everybody was doing whippets or doing ecstasy or so it doesn't surprise me. Well, and here's the other thing. Did you hear about the situation on Sunspot, New Mexico?
I have not.
Okay, so there was a sun observatory linked to the national labs in Sunspot, New Mexico, and they shut down a whole town because a janitor was looking at child porn on his work computer. Now, let me ask you this. If you've got one janitor in a whole town, I mean, I think the town only had like 150 people or something. It's not that big, right? But still, you find one janitor doing whatever, child porn on his computer. Do you shut down the whole town? Do you bring 18-wheelers that have shackles in them to arrest everyone in the town? Do you have police from 3 different jurisdictions respond because a guy has child porn on his work computer? Explain that. That happened.
I can. But where
Right.
was this? Did you say Suntown?
Sunspot, New Mexico.
Okay. That sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, and it was all over the national news. Real big deal for like a day and a half. And this happened, let's see, that would have been 2018. So like almost a year, a little over a year after I had my whistleblower complaint at Los Alamos concerning possible human trafficking. Okay. And they said I was crazy. They said there was no merit to my accusations, etc. And then a year and a half, one of their facilities gets popped for what was supposedly just somebody looking at child porn on their computer. And they shut down a whole town? That doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, I think what happened
like
is
someone is cleaning house.
Yeah, that's right. Got to get rid of the evidence, baby. Again, and they can use secrecy. They could say, well, we are not going to give you any information about that arrest because secrecy, right? They could just continue to do that. And they've been playing us along like that for a very long time. So it just goes on, and it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that, Phil Chacon gets arrested, et cetera, and then shortly thereafter, magically, we've got child porn at one of the other facilities here in New Mexico. That's not a coincidence at that point. So we all need to ask ourselves some hard questions about what goes on with these labs. So
yeah, that's a good place to stop on, I guess, because I need to bring in my family again and don't have them outside too long.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I was going to ask you something else, but this was also a fun little rabbit hole to dive into. I'm not sure what to say or think about it. First time hearing about it myself, so I'm a bit confused.
It's to bring it up. I'm trying to bring attention to it. All right. I'm not trying to make any assumptions necessarily. What I'm trying to say is we have maybe $1 trillion organization, maybe more, that keeps our secrets, but doesn't do a very good job at it and seems to be busy with everything else but what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, sounds about right with all the other stuff going around. I'm not surprised. So to my listeners, where can they find you? Podcast, website, anything? Throw it out.
You can find me on blaqlabs podcast on Spotify. I only do Spotify right now. And then also you can find me on Telegram, blaqlabs podcast. And I have a channel on there also. It's by invite only. I have another channel which just gives general information, but doesn't have a lot of interaction. It's just interesting tidbits and stories that I piece together. So you can find me on Telegram. I do Instagram, but it gets shut down pretty regularly. Black Labs Podcast 1 on Instagram. And remember, Black Labs is spelled with a Q, not a CK. It's spelled with a Q. Not because I'm a QAnon, although that is an interesting rabbit hole in and of itself. So
It sure is. So yeah, thank you very much, man, and have a great day. And maybe
you also run.
maybe we meet up again to continue
Heck
this
yeah.
crazy stuff you throw at me. So
Oh, and hey, with this Sam Britton guy, when they slipped him in, it's going to get more exciting, baby. There's going to be a whole lot of stories, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is. Well, thank you and have a nice day.
Amen. God bless.